Institutional priorities I would define as areas of focus when it comes to particular programmatic efforts or academic efforts, extracurricular opportunities, athletics, the arts, any particular sector of that particular college's sort of life or being. It's those sorts of areas that focus some interest when it comes to enrolling students. And of course, each institution is different. Each institution has its particular image or its particular reputation, its particular set of values. And when each institution is seeking to find students that best fit that place, there is inherently this value set that's focusing that selection process. And inherently, when that's occurring, I do think that there are certain sorts of areas that really do drive some of the selection processes in some way, shape, or form. Each institution is unique and is different, in as much as families might believe that colleges and universities feel the same, and they're looking for the same sorts of things. Each institution would like to believe that it's unique and different, and I certainly feel that way about Johns Hopkins. But I do think when Campbell Hall families are taking a look at what's happening sort of nationwide or even globally when it comes to this college selection process, this idea of unique identification, and as a result, students who fit within those value sets, those institutional priorities, it's important to at least understand how that might play out. And some of the most basic, I think the most oft-referenced, would be things along the lines of athletics, of legacy admission, alumni families, or development prospects, that kind of a thing. There are some institutions that have a reputation for focusing more on legacies, for example, more on athletes, more on the arts, whatever the case might be. But I think at the end of the day, all that a student can really do is to understand how she or she might fit into that larger matrix and understand that they may be part of the process, but it's certainly not everything. And that's a critical piece. At the end of the day, students really do need to represent all of the other pieces of what that college or university is seeking, particularly academics. Then, of course, the rest of the things follow: the extracurricular involvement, the passion, the leadership, whatever the case might be. I actually do hold the dual appointment position with admissions and alumni relations. And it's a somewhat unique position, I think, when it comes to understanding what's happening in higher education more globally, I suppose. And I appreciate the fact that Johns Hopkins recognizes that there's a place for that kind of liaison position. As a result of that, I work with our alumni families, and it's one of the best parts of what I do. I really so enjoy it. Having graduated from Johns Hopkins myself, it only makes sense that I might assist families in understanding what a Hopkins experience could mean for their child. When working with alumni families, I think the most difficult piece is really trying to explain in a very serious way, but a very friendly way, how indeed this might matter. I think there's a lot of discussion about how much weight it carries. And I think that's inevitable when talking about the admission process. There's this sort of fictional idea of weights and measures that's placed out on a table, and where do all of these sorts of things come together. And I think the end of the story really is that first of all, it depends. As with so many things in college admission, the answer is really it depends on the school, it depends on the circumstance, it depends on the situation. So that part of the equation you can never really understand or fully estimate until you reach that particular student. But when it comes to the role specifically that legacy admission can play, it can certainly be quite powerful, but again, it's not everything. Students do have to bring some spectacular academics to bear, at least in the case of Johns Hopkins. They do have to present a compelling personal side. I do think that all of those different pieces are really part of the community that we're trying to bring together, and I would hope that other institutions feel similarly. I had a very difficult time when I was going through the admission process myself in understanding the role that legacy admission played. I mean, truly, my folks both went to the University of Minnesota, and I was not interested in enrolling at the University of Minnesota. So as a result, I had no legacy connection, and I was very frustrated by that idea. I didn't think it was fair, I didn't think it was right, it wasn't earned, it was that kind of idea. But in moving towards what I do now and the role that I play, the families that I serve, it's remarkable how much my opinion has changed. I certainly understand how exciting it is for families when there is that possibility of a family connection. When you yourself have had a wonderful experience at a college or university, I can only imagine how excited you must be, that parent must be, to have ones they love taking a look. I mean, it makes good sense, but at the end of the day, the fit for that particular student is the most critical. And we certainly do not want to engender any kind of frustration or disappointment on the part of that family when indeed the fit is not correct or when there is a mismatch. And that's at the end of the day what we're seeking to do. And that's why all the rest of these measures, this notion of extracurricular support, of academic accomplishment, of leadership, personal qualities, all of that, that's why that really matters. And that's why that is really the larger picture